Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Shaun and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show, finally.
Hey, where is Clint? Does anyone know?
He is on another mission. He will be joining us, what's the word I'm looking for? Eventually.
Shortly.
Yeah, he'll get to us here when he gets to us. He's abroad, and he's also not here.
Does that mean he's transgender? You said he was abroad.
He's trans something, I'll tell you what. And, of course, filling in for Sackhead Clinton, the big chair this evening, the Bloviating Zeppelin himself. Sir, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and it's a big chair because it's the only one in which I fit.
That's not true, actually.
It is true.
We have the two over here. We'll get you into one. If I can fit in this one, anyone can.
By the way, in the intro, it said immigration. Is that referring to me? They're waiting for me to pass immigration.
No, you have to pass muster, which you're doing a hell of a job lately.
Muster, that's near Galt, isn't it? South of Galt, just east of Tonopah. You take 95, and it's just east of Tonopah, I think.
It is. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining us in the chat room, shrmedia.com. Click on live chat. We have so much to talk about this evening. The board is full of topics, getting ready to go. My favorite topic, and it's going to be one that starts right around 1:15, but it's going to carry us through probably the rest of the evening.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Pretty much the DNC, and I can't wait to read that topic. We only read show topics when it's worth it, and this one is absolutely worth it.
You don't mean the implosion of the DNC, do you?
Oh, not even that yet. Look at number 2.
Oh, all right.
Don't read it aloud. Just look at it.
Right, there it is. There it is. Mum's the word.
Oh, man. So, lots to talk about outside of the DNC this week. First couple things, sir. How are you? I want to get that out of the way. How you been?
I'm much better, and I got to tell you why. Because the air conditioning in the house finally works. Last week, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, good morning, good day, good evening. It's the Bloviating Zeppelin. I got to tell you, I was so happy to be here last Wednesday because the air conditioning in this studio worked. The air conditioning at the house, my wife's house, did not work. And then, $882 later,
man,
it works. It was 107 today. The best it got inside the house was 74, and that was with all the turtles pedaling as quickly as they could.
You know, it's so funny because air conditioning is one of those things that as soon as there's a problem, you just start putting zeros on the end of the check and fill in the first couple numbers at the beginning. And mind you, it is 107 degrees here today. It's been like this for the last few days. We've had rolling power outages like crazy with the grid getting overwhelmed. It's been pretty crazy. And on top of it all, the scariest part is everybody's turning to their death machines for comfort. And really, I want to thank. I put a thing on Facebook earlier and Twitter. I want to thank John Kerry for scaring the hell out of me.
Oh, I know where you're going with that one. What a moron. Hello, can you say blithering idiot? I knew you could.
Only because I like my air conditioner. But now, I'm always afraid every time I'm turning it on that ISIS has tinkered with it and it's going to blow up. Because according to John Kerry, it is more dangerous than anything else.
Dangerous than ISIS.
And by the way, I want to thank the second best newsman in the business for joining us in chat, the editor-in-chief himself of High Plains Pundit, and a million other, just the guy who's slowly taking over media, my personal friend and the guy we love dearly, Dan Butcher. It's always a pleasure. I say that because I haven't been able to contact with Dan lately because he's got like stuff going on and doesn't, he's too good for us now. So I just wanted to say hi and extend that. But yeah, back to the air conditioners.
Wait a minute. Dave says air conditioning is dangerous.
Very dangerous, sir. Absolutely horrifically dangerous. It is what will kill us all, according to John Kerry. More dangerous to all of us than ISIS and everything else. Which is just frightening to me. So every single time I see somebody walking down the street with an air conditioning box, now it's summertime, it's 107.
That's right. They have personal air conditioners here in Fornicalia.
Right. Or I automatically think that it's an ISIS attack.
It is. It must be.
Because that's the only explanation, according to Frankenstein himself. I'm sorry, did I say Frankenstein? I meant Frankenstein of State.
You meant Lurch.
Secretary of Frankenstein? I don't know which one that is. So,
okay, question to John Kerry.
Yes.
We eliminated Freon. Now we've got CFCs.
Yes.
And so if we, John Kerry, eliminate CFCs, what do we have left? Fans.
Well, and I always talk about this. Every time we talk about global warming and how stupid it is, I always talk about, and you'll remember this better than I will, actually. End of the 70s, they were worried about the next ice age.
Oh,
Time,
hell yeah.
Newsweek.
You betcha.
Everybody was worried about the ice age. All the science pointed to the next ice age. Science has shown us that we've gone through several ice ages.
Yes, we had one in the 1800s.
Several major heat waves, not the ones that killed the dinosaurs themselves. That was a meteor, they believe. But we've still gone through these things where the Earth constantly shifts. We are so...
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Conceded. Yes, Frankenstein's monster.
No, I'm looking in here. It says personal AC. I don't have one. Where can I get one? Well,
Who doesn't want one?
It's only in California. Ladies and gentlemen in chat, I can tell you it's only in California.
Well, a personal AC is actually AC Cowling, which is what OJ had. That's his personal
That's
AC.
True. And it fit perfectly in the Bronco. Did you notice?
Yeah.
They're about the size of a boombox. Oddly enough, they're $882.
And then we got into the, late 80s with the hairspray. You couldn't use hairspray because it was putting a hole in the ozone.
Right.
And
exactly.
And now we're up to air conditioners. And there's no, I love how they always talk about how the science is set. We have the science. It's definitive. And I bring it back, and I've said this a million times. All my listeners are going to shake their head, but I bring it back to eggs. How many times have eggs went from bad to good to bad to good to bad to good? Right. And they haven't changed.
Gotcha.
It's not like eggs are being reintroduced into... They're just friggin' eggs. But they can't even get that right. What makes me think that they're going to get the environment right? Meanwhile, I'm a big believer that the Earth does a damn good job of when you screw something up too bad, it claims it back. I really believe that.
I do too. I don't think that short of a series of continuous nuclear bursts everywhere, that there really isn't much of anything that can't be done.
Well, and I think it's I think it's amazingly ignorant of us as a species.
It's arrogant of us
to assume that we're that damn good, that we can destroy Mother Earth. And you know, this is where like some people are like, oh, he gets a little weird with this, but I'm like, I think the Earth's as much as a being as we are. In a lot of ways.
It lives, it breathes, it changes.
It does.
You know, the thing that I find confounding is the fact that when people talk about statistics, and for every positive statistic about global warming, I can show you another equally convincing statistic about the fact that it's tending towards global cooling.
Yes. You're looking at all the sensors that are in the Atlantic and the Pacific, and they're not talking about what's on the surface. The surface changes all the time. The ones that are down deep show that the water is becoming colder and colder and colder. And we've seen that more and more. There was an MIT scientist, MIT, who was discussing this not too long ago, and he was saying the surface temperature is not the true temperature of the ocean. It's when you get down into the depths. That's what you should be concerned about. We know that the ice pack is growing. NASA keeps showing us satellites where it keeps getting bigger. So I have such a hard time being that ignorant and almost that conceited to think that we're that good.
Well, here's an interesting thing. Dave in chat says, well, it's because air conditioners give off heat. Well, all right. Okay.
Science.
You know, that's worthy of laughing at. But,
Science.
But he has an actual point.
Right.
All right. Let's say air conditioners give off a great amount of heat. Where do the greatest bulk of leftists live in America? In big cities. What are big cities? Nothing but concrete and pavement and asphalt. And what does all of that do? It traps heat.
Right.
So the biggest purveyors of heat in the entire United States are leftists for living in all their little jubble cages in New York City and Detroit and various places, large cities where there are massive skyscrapers and lots of concrete and asphalt. Well, you don't even think about that. The other question I have is, okay, let's eliminate CFCs. What's waiting in the wings?
Bees.
I don't know.
Well, and somebody else, you know, it's funny because somebody else just sent me an inbox message that's listening, and I appreciate the question. It says, what about all the trash collecting in the oceans? I'm not saying that we should litter at all.
No.
And what people don't realize is those who hunt, fish, they're the biggest people against littering because it destroys the animals because they eat it, choke. That's not global warming. That's a totally different argument.
That's refuse. That's dealing with your refuse situation.
And they claim, they target specifically all the trash that's in the ocean. There's that big trash heap that floats around the Pacific from everything that gets dumped. A lot of people forget that a majority of that actually came from the Tokyo earthquakes and the tsunamis when everything got pulled out. A lot of the trash that's in that is very much part of what happened there.
Yes, and there's still junk arriving from Japan.
Oh, of course, it's all over the place, right?
So, when a tsunami comes in, first it pulls the waves out, and that's called a clue. Yep. That's when you run like hell, when you see the ocean receding. Then it comes back in. Then it brings all the crap with it, and then when it's done, it recedes.
Right.
And when it recedes, it pulls all that crap back out to sea.
Yep. And I think that stuff does need to get cleaned up. Listen, I don't want a dolphin chewing, but the good part is that plastic allegedly will last a couple 100 years. It's floating, so we have time to go get it. It's not going to dissolve, right? Okay. But no, and actually,
so I have time to drink my Pepsi then, right? Okay, good.
I just saw a great story, and a buddy of mine who's a really hardcore conservative, but he's a fisherman, sent this to me, talking about that trash heap that's in. There's a guy who's developed this essentially like a floating net that's going to be posted out there to start capturing some of that and picking it up, and that stuff I think is horrible. I don't like it when I see people throw stuff on the ground. There's the beautification, there's the animal portion of it. It's just bad habit. It's dirty. It doesn't teach. It shows you how people live, and I think it's a lack of pride when you do stuff like that. Now, that's not to say that I've never had a cup fly out of the bed of my pickup truck or something like that. But I mean people that do it all the time. So. For the environmentalists who try to associate littering and global warming, I feel that those are two totally different
elements. And for example, when I try to do heroin in the truck and it flies out the window, bad on me. Now, I did litter the environment, and I always go back to get my syringes.
Absolutely.
Right? I do.
Why wouldn't
leave them
you?
out. No, conservatives don't hate the environment
At all. We use it more than the liberals do. They just most of them just do it to grow pot and hang out and look for Bigfoot.
Ansel Adams, Teddy Roosevelt, they believed in conservatism. And conservatism, the word itself, means to conserve.
Right.
That's what we do.
Yep.
And that also includes the environment. But I'm not willing to give up the damn economy on either a local, a national, or a global scale just to turn shite upside down when there is no bludgeoning amount of statistics indicating that we absolutely need to do that.
Right, and when we talk about environmental advances, like recycling, whenever somebody talks about recycling, I always say, if it makes money and it saves product, and you're the company that's producing these jugs and it's cheaper for you to recycle and reproduce that item again, then I'm all for it.
Sure.
Same thing with solar panels. When you show me that solar panels are as efficient as they should be, and they're getting better, don't get me wrong, and the average consumer can save money by having solar panels versus being guilted into this environmental BS. And the same thing with these cars. Once you prove that it's affordable and as effective as what we have now, you don't have to force people. They're going to naturally switch over. Would I love a car that I could depend on and get everything done that my truck can get done, that I don't have to put gas into? Of course. But until that day comes, I'm going to use gas.
You can't sacrifice. It can't be 100% one way. And here's an excellent example.
I agree.
Here's what leftists don't understand. We want to go to cars. Here's a perfect thing. For those of you, ladies and gentlemen, that are listening, go to any Cars.com lot or a CarMax lot and look at the row of Nissan Leafs that are in that particular car lot, especially at CarMax these days. They don't work. They don't work well, and they don't have a charge, and their range is not really good. But the overarching question of all of that stuff is we want to go to electrical this, electrical that, especially in the state in which we live, Fornicalia, because in my estimation, Fornicalia screws over the rest of the states. And that's
California, for those who don't live here.
That's why I call it Fornicalia.
That's something a lot of non-Californians don't get. Is I hear that all the time, and I'm like, you understand, that's an internal joke. Across the country, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Because the state screws over everything. But the state wants electric everything.
Right.
Now,
and it's forced.
Guess what it's not doing? Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's use our thinking caps and put them on just for a second. It's not building any electrical generation stations at all, period, end of statement. Matter of fact, it just lost a nuclear plant.
Yep, and desalinization, not doing anything with that.
Nope, they built one in San Diego.
Even though the Israelis are way out ahead of it, and they've come here and tried to explain to us how to do it, the state doesn't want any part of it, because then it can't force people to conserve. Water storage, same thing. They don't do water storage. It's been in the budget approved for 15 years now, and they haven't even started it.
For the Delta smelt, the EPA demanded that the state of Fornicalia piss away literally 23 trillion gallons for, at last count, they counted 6 Delta smelt. And instead of giving it to the farmers, because California, the Sacramento Valley and the San Joaquin Valley are great and wonderful places to grow food because the soil is so wonderful.
And environment. And it produces about 70% of the country's fruits and vegetables. Most people don't know that.
So we pissed away for these little creatures that do nothing. They make good bait, if that. And so we pissed away literally trillions of gallons out to the sea for nothing.
Give it away. Give it away. We just throw it out. And then my favorite part is this year we're pumping out some of the dams, right? Folsom Lake, right outside of Sacramento. They had to start releasing millions of gallons of water down the river because when it was still raining, they were worried about it toppling the dam and it overflowing. And if we had water storage further down the river, that would be fine because we could recollect it there, but we don't. So that just went down the river into the ocean. So when we start talking about all this environmental stuff, it is all, in my opinion, and if you disagree, let me know, all of these electrical things, solar panels, which, by the way, Jersey Joe, our resident firefighter, did remind me, if you have solar panels and your house is on fire, there's going to be a delay because the firefighters won't put water on it because it still produces electricity. So they have to wait until they can shut it down completely in order to fight your fire. So you can worry about that too. But all these mandates, solar panel, windmills, all those other things that get pushed in the state especially, it's all because the people in the green business are buying the politicians to make these rules. It has nothing to do with the environment at all.
Exactly.
At all. Because when you look at the common sense things that you could do to make things better in the state, it's never done. Right? You want people to drive less? Increase your public transportation. Make it actually worth the person's while. If you want people to do a lot of different things, you have to make it affordable and convenient. It can't impact the person's life to the point that they can't work. I always tell a gallon of gas. How many times a gallon of gas in the state is taxed? It's taxed when it's brought in. It's taxed when it's produced. It's taxed when it's turned from oil to gasoline. It's taxed when it's sent out and sold to the local station. And then when it hits the pump, the consumer is taxed with all the upcharges that the gas company has to do to get, 4% of the profit per gallon. And then you have county, state, federal,
yes,
and sometimes city and local gas on top of it. And people say, well, why is there no, why are people staying, why are they leaving the workforce? Well, because California, you have to drive to get to some of the jobs that are out here, right? Sacramento area alone, if you're in where the RT is, it's a little bit easier for you to, but it's a horrible public transit system out here. It's terrible.
It is. It's not efficient.
Right. So you look at that and you say, well, then why are these people not even looking for jobs or not taking this job for $10 an hour or $12 an hour and driving? Well, because they have to drive an hour and a half to get there, and gas is $3, sometimes $4 a gallon. By the time they get 2.5 gallons there, 2.5 gallons back, it's not worth it. So they drop out of the workforce. They're not taking those jobs. And I have some people in my circle who say it's done by choice. It's done intentionally because that person now becomes under the public teat versus providing for themselves. The average kid who has a 15, 20-year-old car that just got out of high school can't afford the gas to drive for $12 an hour, whereas I used to drive, when I first got out of high school, my first job, I drove an hour and 35 minutes for $12 an hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, you're going to want to keep that old car for any number of reasons, and I can get into that later. But if you have an older car, especially in California, Fornicalia, you're going to need it. You're going to want it. I came back from Las Vegas. Ladies and gentlemen, Sackhead Radio Media Network went to Las Vegas, went to the Freedom Fest, and I drove there, and then I drove back. When I drove back, I went down there by way of Highway 95 in Nevada, and I came back and then up Highway 99. As I came back, I came across all sorts of wind power sites up on those hills.
Yes.
I would say, and it was fairly windy that day, I would say at least 50% of those were not turning. I have no problem with wind power.
At all?
No problem with water power.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with solar.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with gas-fired, coal-fired. You can't convince me that coal plants can't be cleaned up even more than they are.
Steel industry,
now.
same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. But the problem is that they want to take and kill petroleum.
Yep.
You can move into it gradually, as the logical person should be doing, but you don't kill it right off the bat.
But it goes back to big business, right? The only reason why they're attacking oil companies is because the other people want their piece of the pie. I mean, look at the money we gave to Pelosi's husband for Solyndra. Destroyed it. Couldn't even do it, right? I mean, and then you look at companies like Tesla, who's doing it right. Hey, we have a product that's good, that people actually want to buy. I have no problem with Tesla because they're making it affordable, and people are doing it because they want to. They've produced a decent item, and it's getting better every single year. I'm fine with alternatives, but don't let it be my choice. It goes back to the health care. It goes back to Obamacare. It has to be my choice as an individual, not forced upon me by some spineless government entity like the bureaucrats in the state who do nothing but pass laws that limit people's options and then decide which options they have once it's limited, and then essentially force you to one or two. I bring up Obamacare because California, they just announced last week, 17.5% rate increase on Covered California, the Obamacare state exchange. Everybody who's on that, essentially if you have health care in California now, because even if it's not under Covered California, your private company is going to get hit with this because they pay for Obamacare just like you do, a 17.5% raise. More and more, and again, I have somebody very close to me who's a healthcare attorney. He says it all the time. You're seeing the three bigger two, Health Net, and a couple of the other ones, are getting ready to pull out. If they pull out,
so to speak,
it will not be a massive, wonderful thing. You're going to see Obamacare implode upon itself, and it will go to single-payer system. It will destruct,
which is precisely
what they want. But that's exactly what they're doing with all these other places where government's sticking its nose in and forcing you to do other things. You will see companies like ExxonMobil either pull out or end up disintegrating at some point. So the green companies, and like I said, it has nothing to do with the value of the production or the equipment. It has to do with the person who's making money off of it, which kills me because so many of the environmentalists are Bernie people, big banks, big corporation, blah, 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 and it's their side of the aisle that is forcing that and is making certain business people money and taking money away from other people. It is literally everything they rail against.
Funny you should mention that. One of the major reasons, in case folks you haven't heard this, anybody remember the Keystone XL pipeline?
Oh, yes.
That was coming out of the tar sands in Alberta, Canada. Alberta is a wonderfully fertile area for the oil sands. And the goal was to be able to take and run, by the way, a great deal of the pipeline north-south from Canada is already in place. Some of the infrastructure is already there, but Canada wanted us to complete it because it leads down to what is called the Chemical Coast in the Gulf of Mexico. And the Chemical Coast, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is near Texas. And it's basically where all the refineries are located. And then it's called the Chemical Coast because that's where the tankers come in and take refined fuel and also come in with the oil from the Middle East. And so it's a major area of oil, shipping, railroads, etc. So the logical point was to take oil and bring it down south. Well, one of the things that you didn't get the Keystone XL pipeline is because Warren Buffett greased the skids. Warren Buffett owns BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, and so by killing the Keystone XL, Warren Buffett profited by putting more oil, what they call oil cans or oil cars, on his railroad, and his profits went up by transporting oil by railroad instead of Keystone XL. Thank you very much.
Big business, once again. Hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to get into the DNC. The title of our next topic is Debbie Does Bernie Raw.
Was that jackassery, by the way?
That was general jackassery,
okay.
But we got into topics pretty quick. That one was annoying me.
I like it when you're annoying. It's fun to watch. Smoke, steam, sparks.
It all comes out. Speaking of smoke, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a few right here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Shaun.
Dude, I'm not saying capitalist, stupid bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you're listening and not in live chat, go to shrmedia.com, click live chat to join the conversation. I want to thank everyone who's in the chat room and participating.
There's a bunch.
My good friend, the Big Mouth Patriot, showed up this evening. Always a pleasure, sir, to have you. Old friend of mine who I love dearly, and it's always great to see him around. So let's get into the fun part of the topics tonight, because the first one pissed me off a little bit.
I enjoyed it, I have to say.
I know. Clint likes to see me pissed too. He says I turn beet red like a tomato and go from there. But, this one just warms the cockle of my heart. Or to quote Dennis Leary, it might be the subcockle.
That's a good point. That also is near Galt somewhere, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I believe it's also in the southern part of Ireland.
I can never remember.
Subcockle.
Yes.
So...
Or County Cockle. I think it was County Cockle.
It was County Cockle. Just before the DNC got underway this week, all the righteous sons of bitches in the DNC pointing at the RNC, talking about what evil people we are and how we're just trying to destroy the world, blah, 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 and how everything's corruption. The RNC, the Republicans, corruption. Come to find out, funny story, WikiLeaks decided to let go some emails they've been holding on to, and it turns out that the party of good, peace, natural, and love is the party of true corruption.
What?
My old friend, the Brillo pad, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, being at the helm of the DNC. And we find out that the entire thing was, now confirmed, rigged against Bernie Sanders. Which, I feel bad for the Bern a little bit. Because I think in his heart of hearts, he knew what the reality was. But I think being that, sweet, hopeful little socialist that he is, I really think he thought he was wrong. And I really think he thought that everything was pseudo-kosher.
Get it? Kosher?
Thanks. Yes. I'm waiting for somebody to hammer me on that one. See, if Clint was here, I would have got...
Are you an anti-Semite?
I would have got the blatant bigot comment right away.
Okay.
But the DNC's obviously an anti-Semite, or some of the people there, because they were attacking for it. His religion, is he an atheist, is he a Jew, blah, blah. How can we use this to our advantage? How can we use the religion of Judaism that this man might practice to our advantage? Think about that for a second. And then how can we use it to silence him? I guarantee you money was exchanged. I want to check. I want the FBI. They're all of a sudden looking into how the servers were hacked. Right. Which I think it's funny that now they give a shit.
Yeah.
Right? Now all of a sudden a server gets hacked and we want to know why. But I want to see the money trail in Debbie Wasserman Schultz's bank account. I want to see if she profited on this at all. It would not shock me if she did. Listen, she sold out Israel the job for hat. She's allegedly Jewish herself. But it gets worse, because not only was the whole thing rigged against Bernie, and then spent their entire time trying to figure out how they can exploit Bernie for Hillary's advantage. And I'm taking notes as I think of things that I want to talk about. But you now have the Party of Peace and Tolerance. Tolerance?
No, it's tolerant. It's a derivative of heroin. It's tolerant.
Who were referring to certain nationalities and races with horrific names. The African American community, they were calling like Queenie Latifah or something like, I don't even remember what it was, because honestly, I read it and I was so freaking annoyed that I didn't. The one that sticks out is they were calling Mexicans, potential voters,
right?
They were calling Mexicans taco bowls. Now, folks,
this from the party that, ladies and gentlemen, created the KKK.
Yes.
That no one will admit.
Right. Right.
This from the party that stopped, that didn't want to, that wanted to continue slavery.
Yes. They fought
that party, the Democrat Party.
So it's amazing to me that you have the party who talks about how they love minorities in this country and they do everything they can, but they're going to call them these horrifically racist names that are absolutely horrible. People were aggravated when Donald Trump on, was it Cinco de Mayo, had a taco bowl on his desk and he was eating lunch and he sent out a tweet about, Happy Cinco de Mayo or whatever it was.
Yeah. Real Mexicans call that, by the way, Cinco de Gringo.
Right, because we celebrate it more than they do.
Right, Mexico doesn't.
Well, it's almost like St. Patrick's Day, right? In Ireland, it's not the same thing as it is over here, but I digress. So everyone went saying, oh, this is such a racist picture. He's eating a taco bowl like every Mexican eats tacos, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I think the biggest shock on that picture is underneath this taco bowl was a picture of Mara Maples in Playboy or whatever it was. That was the bigger shock than the taco bowl thing. But they want to talk about how they're just encompassing all groups. And then they turn around going after Bernie, going after minorities in this country, how they can use them, talking about them like they're animals, not even human beings. And then they're going to put all this self-righteousness out there. And so we find out all these horrible things about the DNC. It's essentially a mob hit inside the DNC. You pay to play, right? Hillary accepting the nomination is ridiculous.
And what you said just doomed Bernie Sanders? Money.
Yes.
Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, that the DNC or any of the contributors would let Bernie Sanders into the place with the controls and the levers to have anything to do with the capitalists and the people that contribute? And the only reason they contribute is a quid pro quo.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the Clinton Foundation works. Pay to play.
Don't even get me going about uranium and the Clintons.
Period. End of statement. That's
Right.
how it works. Bernie was doomed from the moment that he opened his flap and said, well, corporations, bad.
Well, and all Bernie, and here's where I feel bad for the Bernie Sanders supporters. You know what? How can you feel bad for them, Bubba? Because I think a lot of them meant well.
I think Bernie Sanders means well.
I don't. I actually don't. I've become more convinced over time that Bernie Sanders is a typical socialist who's in power.
He is, yes.
He wants to be the powerful one, and I don't think it has anything to do with anyone else but Bernie Sanders. So I disagree with you there. His supporters I feel bad for, and here's why. Bernie was allowed to go as far as he did because he was getting the youth vote that they know Hillary couldn't touch. None of those people could connect to Hillary. And they knew the longer he stayed in, the closer that we got, that those people could be used. And they were. And I give them credit. Through the DNC, they've been loud. They've been voicing the fact that they feel used. They're angry at the fact that Bernie came out to support Hillary even after all this crap hit. And they should be angry. And I don't give them any guff for being angry as long as they're peaceful. They are interrupting people at their speeches. I don't blame them if you're a delegate. You should be angry. They booed Bernie himself.
I know what you meant.
I don't even know why I'm having trouble talking tonight. They booed him as he spoke because even they felt, I think, duped by Bernie Sanders.
It's a sense, they feel a despicable sense of betrayal. They feel betrayed.
Absolutely. A lot of them are going to Jill Stein now, the Green Party candidate, because it's closer than, and you're also going to have some that are going to go to Trump.
I think you will see some that are going to go to Trump.
So
it's the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, absolutely is the 80-20 rule. So, it's amazing to me. Once again, we've been saying it for years on this show. All of our friends in chat room say it. All of our friends who listen say it. We all know. It's just confirmation that it's a complete fix when first of all, the other thing too is she couldn't even appear last night at the DNC for a few minutes. She had a teleconference in. There's not an American flag anywhere until people started bitching, and then all of a sudden 5 or 6 popped up.
Excellent point. Monday, ladies and gentlemen, anybody that happened to watch on Monday, like me, did you see anything red and white and blue anywhere inside that building? And near that stage, there was not. Not a thing. Not until it was pointed out by some people, and then a few flags appeared on some posts. I think there's 2 or 3, and they're rather small.
Yeah. And actually, if you follow Chris Pronto on social media, he sent out a bunch of pictures with comparisons, which I thought were great.
I missed it. I'd like to see that.
The other thing, we could talk about, and I do want to talk about some of the people that are speaking, but I want to talk about the DNC operation itself. First of all, one of my favorite signs that came out of it is you must show ID to get your credentials, which is just ironical. That the DNC is requiring ID, considering they don't think you should have an ID to vote. So that starts there. The 8-foot wall that's been put all the way around the entire DNC. The wall that was inside between the delegates and the stage, that the first day was steel and covered in blue, and then everybody went insane about, this is absolutely ridiculous. You guys are supposed to hate walls. Now it is plexiglass and is very, very hard to see on TV. So they've changed that as well. You have
hypocrisy. Thy name is
amazing.
Democrat.
It is amazing to me. We want to keep people out of this country who may do us harm. They don't want to get their own people close, right? Black Lives Matter, who they've supported, they're having Michael Brown's mother and some other people.
Right, Eric Garner's mother as well.
Eric Garner's. Michael Brown's mother, who is under investigation for robbery as we speak, because she allegedly strong-arm robbed her mother-in-law, I believe it was. She's under investigation for robbery.
But the biggest bastards complicit in this is what I call the American media maggots. They will not bring it to the surface.
Hold on, because I want to get there.
But wait, there's more?
Oh, yes. You had the entire town of Ferguson get lit on fire in other cities. Millions of dollars in damage. All these other things that we have as a result of the Michael Brown case, that was not true because we had a grand jury acquit Darren Wilson, and we found out that it was all guff and lies, just like we see in a lot of these cases now. But he was already convicted. It didn't matter by the media, mainstream media.
Exactly.
They convicted him. They were showing the pictures of his house because they're mainstream media, and they don't give a damn. They have an agenda to push.
No, and if you looked at the photographs, you could read the address.
Right. Oh, he said it on TV. It was Don Lemon. I remember I wanted to punch him in his stupid face. So you have this woman who helped incite some of these riots by continuing on when she had an audience with a megaphone. And she is going to be speaking at the DNC. You have the mother of the woman who died in the Texas jail, Sandra Burke, I think her name was.
Yeah, I can't think of her name.
You have her video, which shows that really nothing was wrong, per se. It wasn't perfect, but nothing was done to her specifically when she died. She's going to speak. Eric Garner's mother is going to speak. Not one member of law enforcement or the family of those who've lost their lives.
No one mention of law enforcement.
Or military. You have some active duty colonels and stuff like that, but not families of military. It is amazing. They had illegal immigrants speaking on stage. Illegal immigrants speaking on stage.
And probably with translators.
Proud of it.
Did they speak English?
Yes.
I'm shocked.
They were proud of it. You have all these people who have done nothing but cause chaos in our country with Michael Brown, Eric Garner, and all that, speaking. These are the people the DNC is representing, and is representing them. And then you have, on top of other criminals, you had Bill Clinton come out and speak. Which, if I was Hillary, I wouldn't have had him out. His speech was horrible. Our friend Carrie Donovan wrote a great Facebook thing. Essentially saying he looked like he was drunk. And I went back and watched it afterwards, and I agreed.
I missed it.
You're lucky.
I'm not. It doesn't bother me.
And this doesn't even begin to talk about the fact that there's already been more arrests than there was at the RNC. Black Lives Matter is front and center outside of the Wells Fargo Center, which, by the way, my favorite part is when the anti-bank guy, Bernie Sanders, has to go to the Wells Fargo Center to give a speech.
Isn't that somehow justice?
I absolutely love that.
That's good. That's wonderful.
But there's a great video online. I think Jersey Joe shared it on Reaver Common Sense. But it's the Black Lives Matter movement, and they have their megaphone asking all the white people who are supporting them to go to the back.
Back, yes. I saw that.
It just keeps going on and on and on.
Just when you think it can't get any more stupid, silly, or fattening, it does. It almost becomes a parody of itself.
It absolutely is. I said on Facebook today, I couldn't write a show this funny. I couldn't operate a show this funny. I couldn't write a sitcom. It's kind of like Seinfeld in politics. It's the show about nothing, and just when you think it can't get worse, it gets a little bit worse. I saw a great ad today, and this tells you about the DNC, where they're looking for seat fillers because of the Bernie people who either left or got thrown out.
Oh,
they're hiring seat fillers. And I'm like, well, you have all the seat fillers outside. All those groups that are protesting that you support,
bring them in.
Bring them in.
Certainly, it makes perfect sense.
Why wouldn't you? Well, probably because they can't collect two paychecks. They can't be paid by Soros to protest, and they can't get paid by the DNC. Maybe there's some sort of no competition clause or something that they signed. And then you have the other. This is the other email that came out that I loved. We find out now that the Black Lives Matter D-Ray, I can't remember his last name.
I can't.
He's been arrested a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Come to find out, the DNC was giving him money, and that was in one of the emails too. So,
well, he's one of the guys that's paid to travel around the nation.
Professional protester.
Yes.
My good friend Katie Grimes, who writes for the Flash Report, right here out of Sacramento, she does great articles on these paid protesters and identifies them and shows you pictures. She's had a bunch for the last year as where they show up at other protests because they're paid instigators. There is nothing grassroots with the DNC. Anyone who thinks there is, I have real estate to sell you. It's amazing to me. The DNC proved this year they are everything that they have railed against forever, for the last 10 years. They are more corrupt than any other party in this country. It is all about self-nomination. Hillary, somebody was saying, a friend of mine was saying, hey, even though it's Hillary, it's still kind of cool to see the first female be nominated. I said, she wasn't nominated, she bought it. It was demanded. She was anointed.
It was her time. She was coronated.
Right. She was not nominated. She was one of the limited choices that they were given to vote.
She was owed. She's a Clinton.
And she's owed.
She was due. She figured it was her time, and basically a lot of the other people acquiesced. And then Bernie Sanders created a populist role, a tsunami, if you will. And they didn't see that coming. Here's something interesting. Van Jones, who's a commentator for CNN, made a very interesting comment when Michelle Obama was speaking. And he said that he was bawling during her speech. And he said, if you weren't moved by that, go see the doctor. He said, every American has to appreciate what it means for a woman like her to have grown up in Chicago, dark-skinned, not the classically beautiful woman according to the standards of that time. Oh, well, I wonder what a lot of women think about that she's not a classically beautiful woman. Because, isn't it odd? It seems to me that black women can be every bit as beautiful as white women, or Asian women, or anyone else. So, Van Jones, why don't you just stand back and open your hand and just slap Michelle Obama right across the cheek? Thank you very much, sir. You friggin' communist.
I do have... Agador says, it is the Soviet election. Yeah. I absolutely agree. It is like the Soviet election. It's ridiculous. Anyone who thinks for a second that there was any sort of freedom involved in this was 100% wrong. I mean, you look at Hillary, you knew it was dirty, right? One of my favorite pictures...
It's a Clinton!
Right.
It's dirty!
One of my favorite pictures was Bernie...
That's the job!
Was Bernie standing next to Hillary, and Hillary says, thank you, I will now delay your suicide for giving me your endorsement.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean... We all know she's dirty. She's a liar. We know the games that were involved. We know the amount of money that they have, the influence they have. Listen, you don't get under a high-profile federal investigation 3 or 4 different times in your life and not be dirty.
No, it doesn't happen.
And then not get convicted. Usually, if the feds open a case on you, they usually get you. And she wasn't. And why? Because big politics played a role. Obama's DOJ, Loretta Lynch, gave the order, and it went down. And, Comey's falling on the sword for them.
I love the graphic, and you probably saw it too, of James Comey looking out against the audience and saying something similar to, well, I didn't want to end up dead in a park.
It's true.
It is true.
That's the scariest part about all of this, is at the end of the day, it is about the corruption and power and who they will run over. I mean, I say it all the time. If I was the mother or father of Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, I would be angry at the DNC for exploiting my child, whether righteous or not.
They're not intelligent enough.
Right. Well, how much money do they get? I mean, look at what they just did to Brown's mother. Right? They flew her to Philly. She's probably staying in a 4-star hotel. They made her a rock star. And for somebody who is craving attention, which you saw within hours of Michael Brown dying, she was in front of every camera.
Her face was plastered.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Right, and it had nothing to do. That's the amazing part about her interviews. It had nothing to do about Michael Brown as much as how horrible life is for them. Once we had video of the gentle giant, so-called, strong arm robbing the store owner and pushing him. Wow, the mother did it too. I wonder where he learned it. Pushing him into the chip rack and essentially throwing him like he was a ragdoll. They realized, we got to get away from that. So let's just talk about the blight of the community. It becomes a community issue, and that's one of the things that kills me in all of this is we love to make these things community issues. Well, the poor community. It was an individual person doing an individual thing. It was one law enforcement officer who was involved on one street one day. This doesn't involve the community, it involves that individual. And we've talked about that time and again, and every case needs to be dealt with individually. But we don't do this in this country. We have a tendency to prosecute via the media and convict, which brings us to the top of the hour, and it's going to get us a break from the DNC. I'm waiting for Clint to call in. But speaking of being convicted by the media, I want to talk about Baltimore PD.
Oh, my, yes.
Because
0 for 4 they are. Oh, excuse me. The prosecutor, Mosby, is 0 for 4.
0 for all at this point, it looks like. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back right here on the Sackheads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network.
Don't go away.
Or do, but come back.
Done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Shaun.
Dude, I'm not saying capitalist.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Joining us on the phone, hopefully, is Sackhead Clint. Clint! Sir, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, my goodness.
From an undisclosed location.
We were worried about you.
Hang on a second. I have to make myself a drink.
We're not...
You hear the ice. Hang on. You'll hear the ice into the glass. Okay.
Two can play at this game.
For the record, Clint, we've already done General Jackassery.
Yeah, no, I know. But I'm pouring a fucking drink on my own show.
Oh, man. We've already covered some of the DNC, and a lot of people are telling me that you need to speak up a little bit, Clint, so just so you know.
Because he's so shy and
he is so shy. Yes.
I am ridiculously shy. Hang on, let's see if y'all can hear the rum going into the glass.
Okay, go.
Okay.
Nobody heard that.
And a splash of Coke.
Okay. And a little splash.
Now, where were you?
We were actually about to curtail into the Marilyn Mosby witch hunt. We were talking about the DNC and corruption and how everything is about power, and there's no rule of law, and how people will step on anybody else for power and corruption. And that brings us to Marilyn Mosby. We had today charges dropped on the remaining officers in the Freddie Gray case, so 0 for 7, I believe, for the Baltimore 7. Clint, Ken says he's going to bed and you need to pay his tab.
I need to pay Ken's tab?
Yeah, again, it was just like Vegas when he ran out on us in the buffet. I thought that was the funniest thing. I've never seen a grown man run through a buffet with a shopping bag and just throw stuff in and then run out the door and say, oh, it's on them, and keep going. I just thought that was strange.
It was like trading places. When Dan Aykroyd was in his fantasy.
Very much so. So we now have all 7 officers innocent.
Cleared
of all charges.
Period. End of statement.
Agador says you need to pay the tab or you're going to be a racist, Clint.
Everybody knows I'm not the racist, Shaun. Nice try.
Yep, I was waiting for it. It took you all of 2.5 minutes to be able to get that out. Good job, buddy. You're getting better at this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Marilyn Mosby, who came out today and slammed the investigation done by Baltimore PD and said the corruption that was involved essentially in the investigation is why these officers weren't convicted. We knew when the day after the evidence was released from the police department to the DA's office, as they do in that state, and the charges were brought up immediately, that the fix was in. Right? I mean, they were sacrificial lambs, if you will, in order to further an agenda. In a way, an attack on law enforcement, in my humble opinion.
Well, you don't do that immediately. Within the span of 24 hours, you decide that you're going to prosecute all persons involved
on thousands of cases of files.
Unless you're going to be Obama-like and say that they simply acted stupidly.
Right.
Which is in keeping with the routine, the racist, and I'll go as far to say it, the racist aspect of that.
I agree. Thousands of pages of case files reviewed in 24 hours.
Why would anybody want to be a cop in a city or a jurisdiction run by a progressive liberal,
right,
4 persons?
Well, and they tossed everybody under the bus. The person that was the supervisor of that, absent the lieutenant that was there, was a female black sergeant.
Yes.
And she was thrown under the bus, just as with everybody else. Baltimore's is over 50% black. The command staff is about 80% black. That would be representative also of the mayoral staff and the staff that's in charge of Baltimore. So it's not like the Caucasoid race walked in and decided that they were simply going to turn the city upside down. That didn't happen.
So let me ask you this. Where exactly is Caucasia? Because we've been trying to find this out for a long time.
You know where the Caucasus are? In the Balkans? Yeah, but it's really small.
I haven't seen the.
You ever hear of Liechtenstein? It's near there.
I seek to be near my people in Caucasia.
Oh, it's next to Galt. I'm not sure which.
Okay.
Or is it Tonopah? It might be near Tonopah.
Wrap my head around.
But this was much unlike Michael Brown and Officer Darren Wilson. This was the first real attack against police. This is what pinned blue lives against black lives, because, like BZ pointed out, it was African American officers, black officers, who were arrested, charged with this. You have this complete attack on law enforcement. You have her also going after today Marilyn Mosby, who, like I said, I believe she's inciting all of this for her own political gain, so she can run for higher office later on. She also attacked the judge today, because if you followed any of these cases, the first 4, the judge repeatedly slammed the prosecution for failing to even come close to make the case.
What do we know about that judge?
I don't know anything about his history.
He must be a racist.
He is.
He must be a racist and just loves cops.
That's right. Oh, that's right. He's a black judge.
Oh, whoops.
Well, maybe he.
Obviously, his name is Tom, and he's somebody's uncle because.
And you know what? I don't know anything about his politics or who he is. All I know is from reading everything that are in these cases, he dealt with it the way it should have been dealt with. He dealt with it like a judge.
Well, that's called summary judgment.
Right. Well, but there was no political aspiration for him. The jurisprudence took precedence versus the witch hunt.
Right. The $7.4 million witch hunt.
Right. Because you have to remember, all of these cases also, this case also sparked off the destruction of portions of Baltimore. We remember you then had the police chief who was anointed, if you will, or hired by the mayor, who held his troops back during the rioting. You had the mayor come out and say we were giving them room, the protesters, to destroy.
Right, they had their own little safe space.
Safe space, sorry.
Oh, the poor little snowflakes.
And the destruction, things burned, people injured, it was absolutely, especially law enforcement, it was absolutely insane.
Oh, but that has precedence. Dianne Feinstein, San Francisco, in the gay riots, when Dianne Feinstein told SFPD, let everyone go. Burning automobiles, burning SFPD units, attacking the various stations, no problem. Let it go.
Let it go. But it's amazing to me how the rule of law in this country has been absolutely turned upside down, and this is no different. And
I don't know that the rule of law has been turned upside down. I think that the presumption of innocence in terms of public opinion and in terms of our politicians who should be supporting the law enforcement certainly has been turned upside down. But in this case, the rule of law was upheld. And in this case, the judicial system worked as it should. The judge issued a judgment, what was sound, based upon and we're not even privy to all of the evidence, but based upon what we know, certainly seems like the judge made a sound decision. And so I would argue that the justice system and the rule of law work in the end. Granted, it should have never gone to this point, and it sounds like the judge tried to make that clear. And, we now have this, it's okay to bring charges in the first place based on political reasons, or based upon how it's going to make a department look, or what public opinion is going to be. But I think in the end, the rule of law works in this case. I'm not sure that it will always work, because you get activist judges and so forth.
And the choice, it's amazing, too, because this was just after Michael Brown, in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't that far. They saw that Michael Brown brought the district attorney or state attorney there brought the charges to a grand jury and had them returned with no cause found, acquitted the officer. And they said, we're not going to do that with this. We're going to bring the charges ourselves as the state. We're going to bypass the grand jury and then bring it to one judge and have judges' trials. Let me rephrase that. The officers elected to have judges' trials versus jury trials, which whoever was advising them was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because it would be very, very difficult to get a jury of non-biased opinions into that courtroom. And Mosby, I'm sure, was hoping that the judge would be emotional and allow a lot of things. You can't look at the evidence that we have seen, and especially from the judge's reaction, and say that it met any sort of legal precedence.
Well, the prosecutor
The
prosecutor said that it wasn't just negligent. They said it was essentially murder. They went on to say that the driver of that van, a guy named Goodson, that gave Freddie Gray what they termed a rough ride, when in fact video and witness statements proved that the van was driving, in fact, in a very sedate manner, contradicting what the prosecution was attempting to allege.
And any prosecutor worth their salt would have looked at that and said, hey, so this is what we're alleging, but the evidence doesn't substantiate that. Maybe we need to go another route. I don't understand how a prosecutor, unless they were directed to do so, how they look at that and say, we're bringing this case and this is our argument, even though it's not like they didn't have access to the video. It's not like they didn't have access to the witness statements, that everybody had that van driving in a nominal fashion. So it was clearly political, and I wish the officers had some other recourse against the district attorney's office who
Well, it was the state attorneys. There's also
the attorney general.
There's been I know there's been a petition filed with the Baltimore Bar Association to disbar Marilyn Mosby.
Yes.
She should be,
based on this case. Yes, and I believe the assistant state attorney who actually prosecuted the case as well, under the belief of, even though she ordered it, he should have looked at it and said, this is not a case that we should be prosecuting.
Well, you make a very good point, Shaun, when you talk about rule of law. Under Maryland law, and this is where Mosby and everybody else needs to take a big cup of get the fuck over it, is the defendants get to decide whether they're going to pick a judge or a jury, and they went for the judge. So then Mosby said she blamed a number of factors for her inability to secure a conviction, including having to rely on the police department to investigate its own and not having a say in whether the case is proceeded in front of a judge or a jury. It's the law, Mosby.
You should know it. You should know it.
That's
your job.
Law.
It's your job as a prosecutor to understand your state's laws when you're trying to prosecute a case and work within those parameters. And if you cannot prove your case, in my opinion, they didn't even prove probable cause on at least 4 of these officers.
Right.
Never mind beyond a reasonable doubt. Because one of the first things that they tried to throw out was the Terry stop. And
well, that's what she was alleging. There was no PC even for the stop.
Yes. And
no probable cause.
Right. And we talked about it when all this happened. Baltimore had a city code for knife violations, which he was in violation for. Never mind the fact that this guy was well known to the police. He was a known drug dealer. He was in an area that he was told to stay away from, blah, 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 blah. All these other different things. So that was their initial attack, if you will, on the case was, well, the bike officer who tried to stop him didn't even have probable cause to stop him, and this guy ran. And they threw out probable cause a bunch of times, and I did a little research. For those who don't necessarily know, you don't need probable cause to stop an individual if you're a peace officer. No. You only need to have
reasonable suspicion.
Right. It's called a threshold inquiry in some of the communities. And they have that. And at that point, it is unlawful for Freddie Gray to resist. And he did. He fled on foot. He led to the chase. And then you get to the point while he is in the van. You had his van mate, the guy who was in custody in the next bench over with the wall down the middle, who heard him slamming himself around in the back, running into things, trying to hurt himself. And the interview was conducted immediately after the transport, and he said all of that. Now, he recanted later on and changed his story publicly. He didn't change his story with investigators. When he was interviewed later, he changed it publicly because he's probably afraid he's going to go back into the community and get killed.
Right.
So we have all of these reasons why this never should have been a civil suit. A different story, right?
They'll get to that.
Yeah, a civil suit, you have to prove so much less, and most of the people know that if you file a civil suit where somebody dies, the city's just going to write a check and make you go away, and you're going to get paid. They do it all the time. I think it's wrong, but they do it all the time. But when you're talking criminality and you're talking a criminal case against 7 peace officers who every single day serve that community, from a supervising officer, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and several seasoned officers, you better be damn well sure that you could prosecute that case. And if you can't, you walk away. Well, instead of lifting the hopes of people that this was all
Shaun,
this needed to happen. These people, they're horrible. This shows you all the abuse that cops do, etc.
Now, you're wrong. Here's what happened. I can tell you. All 7 officers got together that morning over coffee and donuts.
There was a meeting in a park.
That's right.
Meeting in a park.
They all decided that they were going to find the first black man that they could see, and they all assigned various duties.
That's why they hang out in parks.
Goodman, you're going to drive the van. You're going to drive like an evil bastard. And they passed out all the duties, and that's what happened. And I'm shocked, Shaun, but you don't recognize that.
But the tragedy in all of this is the people who lost property in their lives and their businesses that had to be rebuilt. The relationship between the community and the police that was further splintered by politicians. It wasn't by the cops. The cops didn't do anything. We know that now. It was the politicians that led that community to separate.
A falsehood took down Ferguson. A falsehood took down Baltimore.
Absolutely. And you had 7 lives that are now destroyed, just like Darren Wilson now destroyed these peace officers' careers, because most of them probably won't be able to return to work ever, at least not in Baltimore. And their livelihood is, they'll get back pay and all this other stuff, and if one of them's eligible for retirement, they'll probably take a retirement and a payout. But at the end of the day, their careers and their family have been destroyed and torn apart for the last year and a half over a political witch hunt. And that is the bigger tragedy on this.
At the end of the day, you didn't have to go there.
Right.
You didn't have to piss away all that money.
Right.
You could have done the logical thinking, cogent thing, which is to say we are going to investigate. We're not going to be pushed on this investigation. We're going to go where the investigation leads us. In the meantime, these people are not going to be out on the street right now, and we're just going to see where the facts go.
And at the end of the day, it caused such an anti-police, more so than Ferguson, I believe, because of the fact that it was officers of different races and backgrounds. It solidified it's us against the cops to a lot of the people in these communities. Now, they're probably not watching the news right now to realize the reality. They're not following up. They don't care. But the damage is done. And when we talk about Black Lives Matter and all the movements that have sprung up over the last couple of years, specifically Black Lives Matter, and you have Marilyn Mosby today continuing to stoke the flames of racism in her comments, and she did, you have a community that the Baltimore police were afraid to go in and police afterwards. They were afraid for the well-being of the officers because, as we've seen now, they even knew that back then that police officers were going to start being targeted for ambush. It just happened with New York City just prior to it with the two detectives in their car. And also, there was such a we don't want the police sentiment in their communities that they weren't showing up unless they had to. There was no proactivity. To the point that the Baltimore citizens called back up and essentially was like, hey, you guys mind coming back a little bit? Because it's kind of scary around here.
That's how you create schizophrenic police departments. People that are scholars of history know it happened to LAPD.
Yes.
And it happened to LAPD in this way, with under Chief Daryl Gates, for example.
Yes.
If you remember Rodney King, 1991, where the 4 police officers got involved with Rodney King, and the story is, and it's true, that there was a particular individual, to a degree LAPD brought it on itself. There was a particular black individual who taped that. These folks may not know this. The person took that tape, the full tape, to the counter of the local LAPD station, said, I have a tape that you guys need to see. The person at the desk at the time said, I don't have any interest, get out. And that's how it got into the media, which was a great, great tactical error on that part. So LAPD got accused of overreaction.
Right.
So they got a bunker mentality from that, overreaction, then the riots occurred. Then they were told they underreacted to the riots. Then, quite frankly, LAPD didn't know whether to crap or go blind, one of the two. So it's true with Ferguson, it's true with Baltimore, it's true with any local area where you're creating schizophrenic police departments and they really don't know what to do. They're human, just like anybody else. They make mistakes, they're wrong, yes, they do kill people, they kill a hell of a lot more white caucasoids than they do blacks.
Caucasoids. I love that. I don't know why that makes me laugh every time.
Dentists kill more people than cops.
Yes.
Bad prescriptions kill 7,000 people per year. Doctors kill 43,000 people per year. But you don't see us attempting to prescribe dentists' prescriptions on pieces of paper from poor writing and doctors.
Patients' lives matter. You know, Agador has a good point in the chat room based on your comment, BZ. He said, I am blind, and I may be actually crapping after the show. So I'm glad we straightened that out. Sackhead Clint.
Thank you for that, sir. I appreciate the support. Right on.
Your comments, sir.
Yeah, so this is a complete segment that I didn't prep. Not one of the 4 that I sent for programming for you guys. So you're off on your own. So I'm just going to sit here and listen to you guys let me know what's in my brain. You want me to comment and stay on fucking script. You do your job, I do mine.
Now that is funny. I like that.
Well,
he is right.
Oh, no, I know he is.
I'm looking at it right there.
This was my surprise Clint segment. Did it work? Are you surprised?
Oh, yeah. I woke up tomorrow with my headphones.
But I wouldn't be more surprised. It's one of the best movies ever.
Listen, I've been surprised a lot today. This is not what I like. Apparently, I have a look-alike on Tinder. I have a Tinder account that I found out about today. So this is awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Shaun. Yeah.
This is one of those awkward moments, sir, where I want to ask you more information, but on the other hand, I don't want to know.
Yeah, you know
what I mean?
just don't know.
I want to know how all of this came to light, because what's the worst that could happen? But the more I think about it, the more I say probably not a good idea. We are going into the break here shortly. I do have a couple questions for you, sir.
Yeah.
A, what type of rum are you enjoying this evening?
Oh, good question.
So I just polished off a bottle of Captain Morgan limited edition spiced rum. It was actually aged in a sherry oak cask.
Sounds magical.
For a period of time. It was a special edition that they ran, and it is amazing. So I'm going to have to look for it again because it is a very good rum with the sherry oak finish kind of.
That's just lovely.
Kind of gives it a nice. Yeah, it is. No, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a very little splash of Pepsi in it, just because the flavor of the rum itself is so good.
Question,
sir.
I have a question, Clint, for you.
Yes, sir.
I think it's for you and Shaun. Should at least the minimum, should the two of you, and perhaps even me, if you ask nicely, should we have an all inebriation show one day, where we start with our favorite drink and just go for 2 hours and see where the hell it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. And TZ, you're kind of new, but the name of that is actually called After Dark.
Yeah, when we do our After Dark shows, it's usually when we're a little cocked.
Yeah.
Now, when does your After Dark show start?
A show After Dark, everything has to be marked explicit like 100 times over. It's pretty interesting.
We don't plan our After Dark shows. They kind of happen. We can plan one, though.
Now, do they start at the regular time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They start at 8 o'clock like regular Pacific.
Right, but we start drinking about an hour before the show.
Oh, there you go. Now you're talking.
No, we get. So by the time we hit the show, like we're hitting the show run.
You're already nice and glossy.
We like to be mentally lubricated. We're up against a break. Real quick, I'm just watching a quick video, looks like from Fox Business, of the protesters are starting to cause problems in Philadelphia.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of pushing and shoving, them going at police and law enforcement. Law enforcement's doing a pretty good job of maintaining a perimeter, but it looks like it's starting to heat up a little bit. So we'll watch that through the course of this show. When we come back, we will go back to the DNC because I know Sackhead Clint has a lot to say, and we will give him all the time he needs for the last 30 minutes of the show. For the rest of us here in the studio, it's going to be the easiest 30 minutes of the night for us. We're going to sit back, relax, and listen to Captain Clint
wax poetic
carry the show. We'll be right back on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news, according to the latest report coming out of...
I hear you. Am I muted right now?
A merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Shaun.
Dude, I'm not saying cough from a stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else.
Hello?
So consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. On the phone with us right now is Sackhead Clint from an undisclosed bunker somewhere halfway across the world where men and men as sheep are scared and the Captain Morgan flows freely. Sir, thank you so much for being able to check in this evening.
Thank you for having me, Shaun. It's a distinct pleasure to be with you guys again tonight while I'm drinking copious amounts of alcohol.
Yes.
And talking, bloviating with the Zepp and with you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, sir. Your thoughts on the DNC so far?
They're a bunch of fucking retards.
Come out of your shell and tell us what you really think.
And go. I just said
it told me to hold back, so I'm holding back a little bit.
I just literally said to BZ at the break, I said, I have a feeling Clint's going to want to have the next 30 minutes to unload, so sir, go.
Look, I don't need 30 minutes. I really don't. So have you guys heard, first of all, Debbie?
Yes.
Did you guys talk about Debbie Does the DNC? Or, I mean, well, she left it or got fired or is saying it or whatever. Did you guys touch on that?
We talked about Debbie Does Bernie Raw. We have not talked about what happened after she resigned as the chair from the DNC, which I think is more alarming.
If you remember, Shaun, we covered her re-election bid when the Republicans were running against her. We single-handedly ruined that one guy's campaign.
Yes.
Nice work, by the way.
Yeah, high five.
So we have a hate relationship with this woman. Is that fair to say?
I would say that she absolutely despises us, and the feeling is quite mutual.
Right. I don't think we ever declared ideological war on her, however, correct?
No, but we're going to, I have a feeling.
We are.
Okay, good.
I don't know that she's relevant enough anymore. I have a feeling she's on the way out.
Well, no, she's part of Hildog's campaign now.
Well, that was payback.
Yeah, that's true. So emails are haunting the Hildog again, right? But this time they're from Debbie. And there's a bunch of emails out there about how the DNC really didn't want Bernie to win and were pretty much in the back door of the Hildog. So Clinton and these emails, man, emails are a motherfucker, aren't they, Hillary?
And all of a sudden, the FBI is really interested in how they got hacked. It kills me. That makes me laugh.
I'm sure somebody's going to get prosecuted for that.
And why she? They're going out. I think it's funny that everyone's making a big deal that the Russians hacked him, and it's a bigger deal in mainstream media, including the CNN, the Clinton News Network, that the Russians did it versus what was found in the emails.
Right.
Right. It's about who, not content.
Right. Roosters in chat.
You can't write this shit, okay?
What did you just say?
I said it earlier tonight. I wish I could write this. It's like Seinfeld meets the DNC.
Seriously, like you can't write. You can't come up with a script. Like somebody couldn't sit down and imagine. Like the person who wrote Harry Potter couldn't imagine something like this happening. It's just come on, seriously. I mean, yeah. So WikiLeaks dumped this whole email thing right about how the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz was completely in Hillary's camp. Look, we've known the Democratic process was rigged. At least we know the Republicans aren't rigged because look, we got Trump.
Yeah, how the hell do you rig that?
There is nothing rigged about that. The Republicans are pissed off, but hey, they understand rules, and ultimately, Trump got the nomination fair and square, and the Republican Party may not be happy about it, but hey, that's the way it goes. The DNC, the Democrats are so corrupt that they're actively ensuring Hildog's success, and I'm sure she was complicit in this. Look, you brought up, and speaking of Hillary's emails, Comey still has failed to respond to the Senate, and specifically to the letter demanding about, hey, how specifically did you reach this conclusion, and how specifically does her severe miscalculation, inaction, understanding, extreme carelessness, quote unquote, how does that not rise to gross negligence? And he still hasn't responded to that.
And Clint, can you imagine that happening under a GOP leadership? Can you imagine, say, an FBI director under a GOP leadership, somewhat favored by the GOP, being able to let that stand and not be assailed and torn down by the American media maggots? I can't see that.
Absolutely not. But you know what? If the American media maggots tore up an FBI director under a Republican administration that did that, I would be all for it. I would be all for it. I'd be like,
yes.
You know what? He needs to answer the questions, and I'm 110%. I'm all for that. And so I'm absolutely all for Comey coming under attack also.
Exactly. Do your job.
Right.
Well,
wait, were you talking to me?
No. Go on. No. Just go ahead, Clint.
Why are you yelling at me all of a sudden? I thought we were doing our job.
A couple of quick things from the chat room, and Jersey Joe just threw something up that I think is great. It's reported that WikiLeaks releases hacked voicemails from the DNC. WikiLeaks said that the new files will be released, have been released today, and are voicemails and other audio recording pulled from the hacking of the DNC servers, outlets are reporting. The site previously published all the DNC emails. So it's about to get more interesting.
I can't wait.
Hey, so here's what I'm wondering. Is WikiLeaks run by a conservative? Because they didn't hack the...
No, it's Assange.
Yeah.
It's Julian Assange. And I don't have a beat on this guy, per se. He's done some questionable stuff in the past. He's involved with Snowden.
He leans left.
But he's an anti-Hillary. He came out and said that he's going to do everything he can to make sure Hillary loses the election.
That's awesome.
I don't know if he's one of those uber anti-big government leftist. So
I think it's because he perceives that she is not left enough for the left.
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe.
That could be, right? That could be. So So look, if this is, hey, look, maybe WikiLeaks could come up with some stuff that the FBI could. I'm just saying.
Well, funny you should mention that, because speaking of probing a little bit further, Donald Trump said in a message today, he's like, hey, if the Russians did hack it, maybe they can get some other stuff that were in the server, while quipping and speaking at a thing. And, of course, mainstream media runs the first headline I see from CNN says, Donald Trump asks Russians to hack Clinton's server. Now,
what a unique concept.
I just thought it was...
Look, the Russians may be a little bit more capable than the FBI.
Yeah.
So it's really horrible.
I just think it's funny that his comment was essentially in jest, at least that's how I took it.
Yeah.
And they're going to turn around and run with that as their headline, being the media lapdogs that they are.
Of course they are.
On Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Rooster in the chat room said that, and Clint, this is actually a good one for you to answer, that she is hot, but in a that she's hot, but in a Barbra Streisand kind of way. Agree or disagree?
Oh my God. No, completely disagree.
Oh, completely.
she's not all hot at all. So her face looks like a pug.
We don't have to go into details. It was just a hot or not question.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say not.
That's when that particular individual comes out and says, I thank God I'm blind.
Agador.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, that had to be from Ad.
Clint, we're coming up on some of the big speakers. We spoke for the DNC. Of course, at the RNC, you had the mother of Shaun Smith. You had Tig. You had Oz. Chris Pronto's been very, very vocal there, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
You get the mother of Michael Brown, the mother of Eric Garner, the mother of the woman who died in custody in the Texas cell. Comparisons?
Yeah, war heroes, people who raise dirtbags.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page with this one.
Yeah, there we go.
Obama spoke.
That'll get me hate mail, but fucking bring it on, right? So, yeah, the RNC. What do you get, right? You get war heroes. You get people who serve. You get people who have the balls to go in and fight in Benghazi when this administration failed to send help when they could have. That's who you get.
Right.
At the DNC, what do you get? You get people who fucking raise shitheads.
Again, you notice how Clint is very craftily hedging his bet and not telling us what he really feels. He's holding back. I know it's in there
It's going to come out. It's going to come out.
Waiting
we
for
may
it
have
to
to have
come out.
Dr. Phil come in and get Clint's true emotions to be.
I know
to
he's
be
just
transparent for this.
He needs to get in touch.
I'm fired up tonight, boys. I'm sorry. This is just. It's just one of those evenings, right?
Oh, trust me, it is. Hey, lastly, and getting onto some of the other topics that I know you wanted to discuss. Kaine, Vice President choice, go.
Is he able?
When I saw that up on the board, I had to say, whoever wrote that was clever. Kaine, is he able?
Very much. Look, look, I do my job, right? Programming, that's kind of my thing. That's all I can do. And Shaun does absolutely everything else. Look, I think that he was certainly a smart choice for Hillary, given who Donald Trump ended up with. She needed somebody who was going to balance out that Pence part of the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And Kaine is somebody who, look, he is actually very middle of the road.
Yes.
If there is such a thing as a blue dog Democrat today, he's it. So I think that I'm happy with him as a pick. I can't stand Hillary Clinton. I think she's as corrupt as they get. That's my opinion. But I think that Kaine, for a Democrat, is somebody who can be more reasonable. I think he can bring in those independent voters, and I think she needed him. But I think that with that pick, she lost the far left. And that may be, she may need them in this election, because if they stay home and she gets the Democrats who aren't completely far left, the non-communists, and she gets some of the independents, and the Republicans turn out for Trump, I think Hillary loses. So I think this was a
Hagedorn in chat just said the VP debate could be the best thing to happen to insomnia for years. Yeah, but it doesn't help our cause, which is putting narcolepsy to bed.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Here's something interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Clint.
I think that the far left lost with that, and I think that's why you see obviously some of the protests and so forth there. The Bernie people being very upset, of course, and I think that this isn't played as much. You hear a lot in the mainstream media about how the Republican Party's in trouble. I think the Republican Party came out of the convention and even went into the convention in better shape than what the DNC is shaping up to be.
Yes.
I see the DNC kind of starting to fall apart a little bit, particularly as the emails come out. Debbie Washington Schultz, as the chair, resigns. There's supposedly some voicemails now that are going to be coming back. You have protesters. Look at the RNC. At least the protesters were on the left, right? Well, if the TNC gets who the protesters are,
they're on the left too.
Oh, shit, it's their base.
It's bad when your base is the one who's lighting you up.
Right. Look, at least with the RNC, you're like, yeah, we're getting protested. They're not voting for us anyways, right?
Right.
The DNC, you're getting protested by this group. You're like, oh shit, I think we got to do something about this.
Because they're not left enough. That's the amazing part. Rooster brought up a good point in the chat room. I'd love to get your feedback on this. Third party candidate. If Johnson can feel the Johnson for 10%, do you let him to the debates?
Absolutely.
Well, a new stats show him at 21% now.
I'm all for
really? Yes.
And I think this. I think it's Bernie Sanders, because look how much he won. I think if Bernie Sanders runs as a socialist, and so then you'll have a Republican, a Libertarian, a Democrat, and a Socialist. I think you let them all debate. Absolutely, 100%.
I think that would be.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I know Bernie's already endorsed Hillary, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody on the far left came up and. I mean, do I think if it's not Bernie Sanders, do I think they can get anybody to do it? Probably not. But would it surprise me? It wouldn't surprise me, is what I'm saying. I'm not making a prediction. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I still think Bernie's afraid at his age he may catch the Arkansas flu if he did something like that, and we all know how deadly that can be. I agree with you, and here's why. I really don't think that having all four of them on stage is going to hurt our nation. I think, if anything, it brings up a lot of good conversation to have. I don't think any of their base at this point, I think at this point the Democrats, the people are going to go in and pull the handle, and Democrats are going to do it no matter what. Bill Clinton could have walked out pantsless last night with an intern on each arm, and they're still going to vote Democrat. The Bernie people are still going to vote Bernie no matter what right now. I've said time and again, this is one of those elections that I don't think the campaign money needs to be where it is. I think everybody's kind of where they are right now.
They're not going to change. They're not. When you put a serial philanderer and you put a serial rapist in the same body and put it on stage and people applaud,
there's a problem.
How do you typify that? That is so beyond human ken.
Gary Johnson, and we saw a lot of his supporters in Vegas. Same thing. He may be the only one who would gain some votes out of the debates, but I think he would gain it from Bernie more than he would anything else.
Well, Gary Johnson is the guy that said on a radio show that one of the first things that he'd do is decommission all of the United States aircraft carrier fleets.
Yeah, well...
Are you insane?
I don't think that would happen. But, we can go on.
Hang on. I have an observation to make.
Go ahead.
When you guys say serial rapist, I pictured Bill Clinton with a hard-on on stage fucking a box of Fruit Loops. That's all I'm saying.
Either way, I think...
That picture sink in for a moment.
That's like the line out of the original Dirty Harry from 1971.
And then, and like I said, I think Trump is going to get the support he's going to get no matter what anyhow. I think this time people have already decided where they're going to be. I don't think Bernie's going to get any more, but I think Johnson could steal from Bernie. My last comment or question that I want to bring up to you before we start closing out the show here. There's rumors now that Anthony Weiner, a.k.a. Carlos Danger.
Carlos Danger. I'd forgotten about that. That's
run
glorious.
for mayor. and of course, his wife is Huma Aberdeen, who is the personal advisor to Hillary. I don't want anything more than to bring up, the fact that in a news conference, as Agador just pointed out, Trump actually called Weiner a sleazeball and a pervert, which was kind of funny. But just the fact that the DNC is dragging out the Weiner again, I want your response.
Here's my response. I don't know what it is about the DNC and why they love bringing up the Weiner, and they're gonna push him. They're gonna push the Weiner, and they're gonna push the Weiner until the Weiner is on the lips of every voting person in that jurisdiction.
Right.
And that's look. They don't have anybody else, and it's politics, and the American public is very forgiving and forgetful. And so if the DNC can push the Weiner and rub it in people's faces and just kind of have them out there, then that's what they're going to do, and they're famous for that.
Well, and I personally think that they're going to try to sneak the Weiner in through the back.
Really?
Yeah,
No, I think they're going to sneak. I think they're going to jam the Weiner right down everybody's throat.
No, see,
they're going to try and sneak it.
I don't think. I think he's going to show up in the back at the last minute and just try to sneak in and surprise everybody in New York by being on the ballot.
That's always a surprise,
right? I was okay until he said that.
Whoa, wait! Is that Weiner knocking? Hello.
And at that point, I don't know if people in New York will pull the handle for Weiner, but it'll be an interesting climax during the election to see what'll happen.
Yes, exactly.
Is he going to explode all over the stage? What's this really going to look like?
I don't know. I really don't know. And it's interesting to see if he actually shaves now, because I know he let his grooming go a little bit when he came out of the public eye. But now, so for a while he was a hairy Weiner, but it looks like he's trimmed it up again, so that could help as well.
It could help him out, and I wonder if he got a new staff also, because he was hanging around with some other dicks before. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's an excellent point.
Yeah,
I'm all out of similes.
We can go all night. We can go all night with this one. If there's one thing this show can do is dick jokes.
And I don't mean Richard.
You should have seen us when this thing first broke.
Oh yeah, we did 2 straight hours.
30-minute segment on penis jokes. In case you don't know, you're listening to a conservative talk show.
Yeah, this is the Sad Radio Show on the SHR Media Network. Conservative media done right here, folks.
Done right, done late. Hey, this thing out of Heat Street, Clint, you would be interested about this because you guys were talking about Bernie Sanders. It says Bernie Sanders now leaves the Democratic Party. The nomination was barely sealed up at the DNC before Bernie Sanders, who campaigned against Hillary Clinton for the party's nod, went back to being an independent. He took his toys and went home.
Really? Who's reporting that now? Drudge?
Heat Street just came out.
Heat Street just... Hey, Clint, you may have predicted the future. He just pushed himself back to independent status. So I guess the DNC already felt the burn, and now he's going back, and now they're just left with the Weiner.
Yeah, I mean, what? I just potentially nailed it, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Naked wiener, no buns.
Slow it down. Let's slow it down. If that's the case, then you could very well see Bernie not go away. Somebody asked, what's Heat Streak? Are we still doing jokes? It is too late to file, but if he's going on a straight write-in,
who knows what he could pull away?
Yeah, he really could. Bernie could do a lot of damage to the Hildog.
And people will follow.
Yes.
Bernie could. And I bet that for the first time since 1948, I think.
46. 46. I think it's 46.
Somebody who's there could say the last time somebody from the Socialist Party got an electoral vote, or at least was on the national ticket as a claimed socialist. He could be the first one since before the Cold War, and that was the time the Cold War was heating up, which is why socialists never appeared again until potentially now. Really, so I'm kind of interested to watch this one.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. And Jersey Joe pointed out really quick that this is a Dem exit, kind of like a Brexit. He's a socialist, so this would be a sexit. So let's get that squared away right away. And then some states you can't write in. You actually have to file, and he may have passed the deadline. Yeah, but he can still write. They can, in a lot of other states, he can still write in. And I'll tell you right now, the fact that he left, I think, is going to garner him more write-ins because his true supporters, who just days ago were furious at him for supporting Hillary and giving the speech that he did, will now, they will try to undo the. Listen, he's got a ton of support in this country, and
he does.
And he may actually, he may do more damage to Hillary just by leaving the party, if that is true.
It just came out. And yes, that went through Heat Street via Drudge.
Okay, so it's originally on the Drudge. So,
No, it's originally on Heat Street. Drudge picked it up.
Okay.
And the Clintons are chaffing. Their asses are chaffed now.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be, there's just gallons of bag bomb being delivered immediately to Clinton electoral headquarters, which is good because I think Debbie Washman Schultz used that in her hair. Hey, listen, folks, this is the Sackheads Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the Bloviating Zeppelin, bloviatingzeppelin.net for joining us this evening and filling in.
Gentlemen.
He will return next week as he sits in for me. I will be away, and Clint will be back in the studio. Sackhead Clint, who is in an undisclosed location on a secret mission that does not involve rocks or hookers, but does involve copious amounts of alcohol. Sir, thank you so much for taking time out of your secret mission to deal with us little people.
No, not at all. I love hanging out with the little folks, and it's little people that make this special. Like
Those serfs, groundlings, commoners.
It's little people like yourselves that make this special. Vacation, Christmas, boom. You've been listening to the Sackheads Radio Show. We will talk to you next Wednesday evening. Check out all the great shows on the SHR Media Network. Pick it up tomorrow morning with the Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe, 8 Pacific, 11 in the East.
Jersey Joe.
Great guy. Also, we're waiting for another unpleasant blind guy to drop. Follow the Spreaker. Follow his channel on Spreaker to find out, and you can also watch our social media. Shout out to Rooster for joining us in chat. Always a pleasure to have you back, sir. And especially at your age to stay up this late. I said especially at your age, Rooster. It's always nice to have you. Of course, your dear friend. Everyone else in the chat room, thank you so much. Agador, Mary was in, Ken was in.
Shout out to Anthrax Bill.
Yeah, Anthrax Bill. And, just remember, New York, look out, because the wiener is coming. This is the Sackheads Radio Show. We will talk to you next week. Good night.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk. Sackhead Shaun and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.